Hi, my name's Doug. I live in Melbourne, Australia, and I've been a board gamer for 45 to 50 years. I'm not sure exactly. I know I took up board gaming in 1977 when an uncle of mine visited from Canberra. I live in Melbourne, Australia, and he brought a couple of board games with him, and one of them was Dungeon by Gate Games. And I vividly remember staying up every night, refusing to go to bed because I was just bitten by the bug of playing this dungeon hack retro board game called Dungeon with an exclamation mark. So anyway, 45 to 50 years later, I still love dungeon games. I still love board games, and as you can see behind me, I'm a bit addicted still. I've got a lot of Reiner Knizia titles behind me because he's the best in the business, but you may see a few other titles behind me. But anyway, I've recently retired from the Bureau of Meteorology in Australia. I'm looking for other things to do. I'm an avid disc golfer. I've done a couple of disc golf videos, which turned out not as bad as I was expecting. So I'm going to try and do a board game video because I don't believe there's enough board game content out there on YouTube. Anyway, today I want to talk about Rogue Dungeon, second edition. Didn't know much about this game. I stumbled across it on other YouTube channels. I ordered a copy. It arrived about 10 days later. I've played it 5 times. It's pretty good. It's basically taken me back 45 to 50 years to those times when I was playing with my uncle. This is a really good retro board game dungeon hack. Let's talk about it a little bit. It's not a review. It's not a playthrough. It's just me trying to see if I can do a YouTube video about a board game.
So today I just want to talk a little about a game called Rogue Dungeon. I didn't know anything about this game, but for some reason YouTube, the algorithm is recommending that I watch a channel called The Dungeon Dive, and the chap on that channel recommended this game. I watched the review. I was very interested, so I ordered a copy. I think I was very lucky to get a copy because I checked back later in the day and it had sold out. So anyway, this came from China, so maybe people in Asia or Oceania can still get a copy out of China. But this is the second edition of Rogue Dungeon by Cerberus Gate Games. It's a very small box. It's very compact. And for reference, this is a disc golf disc, which is not very big. So you can actually see this box is quite small. And just for extra comparison, this is a GMT standard bookshelf type box, and as you can see, it's about half the size of that, but maybe a little bit deeper. Anyway, let's dive into this game. Okay, so here's a game setup. I'm not going to play the game. I'm not going to review the game. I'm just going to describe the game and give some thoughts. I think this game has some really clever touches. It's not difficult to play. It kind of rides on rails. The rules are a little dense, but it's fine. It's all quite intuitive dungeon stuff. I really didn't have any questions. A couple of sections of the rules I had to read a couple of times, but yeah, no, the game is really good. So what we have here is basically this side of this board here is the dungeon board where dungeon stuff happens, and this is the hero board where you're managing your character. I should point out this game is for 1 to 3 players, but I think it's really a solo game that up to 3 can play. So here I've actually chosen the barbarian. There are quite a lot of characters you can choose from, and you can just turn the card over and choose the gender of your character, which is always nice. I've chosen the barbarian, and each of these characters kind of reads the same way. You have all these basically these traits or numbers down the bottom, which are your stats. So you can see this stat here is the strength of the character, and it's got like a splat, which also means it's the primary trait of this character, the primary skill. So the barbarian is all about strength, but you may find other characters have, for example, this green one would be agility. Then I think we have some sort of intellect or wisdom. The yellow number is your vitality. Then you have your starting health, your luck, and how much damage you do initially when you hit a monster. And all these stats are actually represented here on these tracks. So we have our 4 tracks up here. We also have our starting health here. We have our starting luck, and we have our starting weapon damage. Now, the Barbarian also starts with some equipment. Every character actually comes with some starting cards, which gives the game some nice flavour. I've only played the Barbarian and the Aristocrat so far, and they're quite different. So basically the Barbarian will start with 3 weapons. It will start with 3, I think these are traits or skills, I can't remember. And it starts with a meaty rib. You always got to have a meaty rib. You always start with 3 camping gear, which allows you to heal up if you need to take a rest. So this is basically where you will run your character, and you've got all these nice little slots on this board here to store your stuff. So if you get some henchmen or some armor or a potion or some treasure or a scroll of some sort, you've got nice little spots to store these things. So it's all very clean, and as you get to travel through the dungeon and work your character, there are some nice touches here which I'll get to. So this is the dungeon over here. We start with level 1, and the idea of the game is you've got to get through 5 levels of this dungeon and then basically face off against a boss. Now, we don't know which boss we're going to face. I've never actually reached a boss. I think I've played this 5 times now. Never got through 5 levels and actually reached the boss, but the bosses are, something suitably terrible to face off against. And I think there's even a Balrog in here somewhere. Yeah, there's a Balrog. Always got to have a Balrog in a game. Yeah, so the dungeon is over here, and basically this is your character. I think this is the Barbarian. There are 10 different meeples in this box. I think that's the Barbarian meeple, and you've basically got to get through 5 rooms of a dungeon. So you randomly just deal yourself out 5 rooms. You can either play the dungeon side or the tomb side. The rules recommend starting with the dungeon side. So you've got a whole lot of, maybe a dozen cards here. You just randomly shuffle them up and just deal yourself 5 cards. And each card is a level of the dungeon. So this is the level 1 card. There's a staircase, and you've got to get around this dungeon and get to the exit before you move on to level 2 and the dungeon card underneath. So it's all very clean, crisp, intuitive. If you've played dungeon hack games before, you won't find anything threatening here. Yeah, so let's just move on and see how a turn goes. So what I'll do now is I'll just play through a few turns of this game, and it'll give you a feeling as to how it plays. So what you're trying to do, as I described earlier, is you're trying to basically navigate your way through the 5 dungeon levels. But as you go through, you're going to have some encounters. And what you want to get out of these encounters is basically better stuff. You want to gain better loot, which your character can use. So my Barbarian here, for example, wants to, I guess, gain strength, because that's my primary ability. So I want to get this track moving upwards as quickly as I can, because as you move through the dungeon, the monsters get bigger and badder and stronger. So you need to get this track up. And it's one of those games where you need to get everything up. So now this Barbarian, which I think is unusual, has some text down here which basically indicates how you calculate the weapon damage for this particular character. Normally it's a little simpler than what's presented here, but for this Barbarian, basically the weapon damage, which is how much damage I do when I strike a monster, is either the number of strength and agility weapons I have, so I have 3 strength or agility weapons based on these icons, or my agility minus 2, whichever is lower. So my agility is currently 3. I have 3 of these. 3 minus 2 is 1. So 1 is lower than 3. So my weapon damage is 1. So basically I want to get my agility up to 5. So I can basically do 3 damage when I strike a monster. So every character, I suspect, based on this, is going to be a little bit different, and you've got little subtle differences in how you play them and what your goals are. But ideally, you want to get all your tracks up as quickly as possible, because the dungeon will ask of you tests against each of these skills. And the way you get these tracks up, you need to gain experience. So you want to gain these experience tokens. So without any further ado, let's just play through a couple of turns and you can see just how bad I am at this game. So we're at level 1. This is the level 1 monster deck. This is the loot deck. This is a random deck. So I don't know what's coming up here. This is basically another loot deck that I can riffle through when the game instructs me to pull a particular card. This is the cursed loot deck. I haven't actually interacted with this yet, so I don't know quite what's going on there. But anyway, let's just play a turn. So we're in level 1. We're starting on the staircase. And what a turn is you pick your meeple up and you move it to the next gem icon. So I start on the staircase and I move down to this yellow gem icon and I have to interact with that space. Now, as you can see, there are different color gem icons on these dungeon cards and they actually mean different things. So I can get a little thematic hint as to what I'm about to interact with based on the color of the gem. And if I could find it in the rules, I could tell you what they are. So if I interact with a yellow gem, that's basically going to be some sort of trap or a hazard of some sort. So basically, I know I'm moving into some sort of dangerous situation that I've got to interact with. If it was a red gem, it's pretty much guaranteed you're going to be fighting a monster. If it's a purple gem, it's basically some sort of benefit or bonus. So if I want to get to this purple gem, I've got to go through trap, monster, trap, and then I get the reward of basically hacking my way through the dungeon to get to the good stuff. I think these green gems up here, that was some sort of beneficial thing. They were good to visit from memory. And I think the white ones were trading locations. So if I can get to here, I get a potential trade where I can possibly get some better stuff. I can't remember what the blue did, but I don't think it was bad, but I'm not sure. But anyway, so my turn is simply advancing to here, and I'm going to turn this card up from the yellow gem deck because it's a yellow space, and you simply turn the card over and pop it in this room and fully resolve it. So this is a dungeon card. It's got this dungeon icon on it. If it wouldn't be in the Tomb game, there would be different cards. So out of nowhere, you are ambushed by a giant blob, a gelatinous cube. Make a strength check. Pass if you have a rope, or you can discard a flying carpet. Well, I don't have a rope, I don't have a flying carpet. I have to make a strength check. So a check is simply, I've got to roll 3 or under on a D10. I think a 1 is always a pass, a 10 is always a fail. Otherwise, we just go. So I've rolled a 10, that's a fail. Now, fail, take damage equal to the dungeon level. So I could just lose 1 health here because it's a level 1 dungeon. Or if I didn't like that outcome, I could spend some luck to re-roll that dice. So luck is a very precious commodity. I start with 3 of them. I could spend 1 of those luck to re-roll the dice, or I could spend a luck to manipulate the dice up or down 1 pip. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to basically take my hit because I know what's coming. Now, this icon here indicates that it's a persistent card. So if I went back through this space again, this gelatinous cube would basically be there waiting for me. So what I need to do is I need to set that aside and I need to put a gem on it with the gem pointing the same way as the icon on the dungeon card. That just is this is one of the clever touches in this game. So if I went back through this space, I would go and find the card over on the side that has the gem in that orientation, and I know I've got to interact with that cube again. But that's a turn. So basically, I've done it. I failed, but that is a turn. So simply, you just keep going. So what I will do is I'll just move on to this. It's a red gem, so I have to interact with a red card. It's an encounter. Draw 1 monster and resolve combat. So what I do here is I'm in level 1, so I draw a level 1 monster and I resolve combat. It's a skeleton. So let's have a look at these cards. So I love the art on these cards. They are gorgeous. So basically, I'll get 1 experience if I defeat the skeleton. I think the experience matches the level of the deck it comes out of. It's got 1 health. It's got an attack value of 8. And if it hits me, it will do 1 damage to me. And I believe these are weaknesses. So if I had some of these things in my possessions here, I could potentially dispatch this skeleton without actually having to fight it. But we have to fight it. I could have tried and evade it, but I'm not going to do that. That would make for a boring video. So I'm going to just attack this skeleton, and I simply do that by rolling a dice and putting it on it. Putting it on the skeleton to show I've targeted that. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to get 8 or above on this. I've basically got to tie or exceed this 8 value on the skeleton. And the way I calculate it is I just add this die roll to my primary trait, which is strength. So I've got 6. That's not good enough. So I could use some luck to re-roll that dice, or I'll just take another hit. So I'm down to 3 health already. This will be a very quick game. You die basically when you run out of health. So we just go again, I believe. Right, that's more like it. I've rolled a 10. So 10 is always a hit. So I do 1 damage. The skeleton has 1 health. This skeleton is defeated. So what I do is I get 1 experience for that. And what I might do is normally you just store them up here and spend them when you want to spend them. You typically spend experience on advancing your tracks, obtaining more luck. There was another thing you could do with experience that I can't remember at the moment. But I'm going to spend this 1 experience to advance my intellect to level 2. Now, also, whenever you defeat a monster, you get a random loot card. So we have picked up a mace. So we just store that here. A lot of these weapons basically have some sort of additional text, but we won't worry about that. We're just trying to whip through a dungeon and give you a quick flavour. So now that monster's been defeated. So what we actually do is we cover that up to show that that space has been dealt with. And I believe if I was moving around here again, I just skip over that because it's not there anymore. Anyway, we have another hazard. A treasure mimic. Cool card. You attempt to open a treasure chest. Make an intellect check. Well, good thing I just bumped it up. Right, so we just roll the dice. I've rolled a 1. I passed, even though I'm a dumb barbarian. Okay, draw 1 loot card and gain 2 experience points. So we will do that. I found more camping gear. So camping gear is good for getting health back, which I will probably need to do that. You can use it at any time, but if you're not at the stairs, or then you'll get attacked by a monster, basically, because you just can't have it rest in the middle of a dungeon. You need to be at the stairs to do it safely. Right, so we have more camping gear. So now, it also said to discard that if we defeat it, so we'll just put a little gem over there. So what I should do is I should just go in there and interact with that purple gem, because there's no reason not to. It's a prison cell. Okay, a humble prisoner agrees to join you if you manage to free him. Make a strength check. Pass if you discard a lockpick or a skeleton key. Well, I don't have a lockpick or a skeleton key, so I will make a strength check. And I've rolled a 4. My strength is 3. So what I might do is I might actually spend a luck here just to show you how it works. So my luck goes from 3 to 2, and I get to reduce that to 3. So I have passed my strength check. So I can take the cell sword from the specialty deck. So we just go through here and we try and find the cell sword. There he is. So the cell sword is a henchman. You'll give me a +1 in combat, which is great. So we'll just pop that down there to remind me. And I can discard him to block any damage. So maybe a little further into this dungeon, when the monsters are a little bigger and badder, we may be able to sacrifice him to stop him hurting me. So that was worth doing. We found a cell sword in a prison cell. So we just move back out, and we'll move back around to this monster. Monster deck. Another monster. We draw a monster. It's giant wasps. All right. So not a lot we can do here. I just got to roll the dice, and I've got to get up to 8. So we roll the dice. I rolled a 3, which is not 8. 3 plus 3 is 6. Okay, so we've got hit again. So we'll just lose that. And we'll go again. 6. 6 plus 3 is 9, which exceeds 8. So we do... Oh, we had the sellsword, didn't we? I don't think that did anything before. No. So we do 1 damage, which is all we need to do. So we've defeated the wasps. We take an experience. We pop it down there. We draw a loot, because we always draw a loot when we defeat a monster. We've got a crossbow. Okay, so we're getting a lot of agility and strength cards here. So it's probably worth getting our agility up to match that because of our special barbarian thing. Anyway, so moving along, because I want this to be quick. I don't want this to be an enormous video. I'm going to discard my 3 experience to advance my agility up to 4. So my agility minus 2 is 4 minus 2, which is 2. So that means that goes up to 2. I actually do 2 damage now when I hit a monster. So you can see you want to get your tracks up because it makes the checks easier to pass as you move your way through these dungeon cards. It makes monsters easier to hit if you can get your primary skill up. So yeah, you want to basically just keep leveling up because the dungeon will catch up with you if you don't stay on top of it. So we're just going to move into this green deck. And it's a mystical fountain. You drink from a mystical fountain. If your health equals your vitality, gain 1 vitality. Well, it doesn't, because my vitality is 5, which is basically your maximum health, and my health is 2, so I don't gain a vitality. Vitality is great because when you gain vitality, you also gain health at the same time. Anyway, we're rolling a d6. 3 plus 1, we gain 4 health. So we actually go up to, sorry, that vitality. No, I didn't gain a vitality. So we actually go up to maximum health, which is 5. Okay, and we've cleared that green room. So I'm just going to quickly hack my way around to the exit. We encounter a lake of fire. A ferryman offers to take you across for a fare. Fail unless one hero discards a loot card. If you discard a flying carpet, gain 3 experience points and discard this room. Well, we're going to have to discard a loot, aren't we? Well, we'll discard this camping gear because we have a lot of it. So we've discarded a loot card. We're across the lake of fire, and that's a persistent room. Not that it matters because we are about to exit the dungeon. So that is the exit. We've completed level 1, and that is basically how simple it gets. It's not that much more complex than this. I mean, there are lots of rules and lots of keywords, and I haven't gone really anywhere past level 3, so I don't really know what lies beyond that. A lot of the monsters have keywords on them and things like that, which I've just barely touched. So like ensnare. So basically, if you roll a 5 fighting this monster, that will trigger and it will do something bad to you. So anyway, this is just a very quick overview of a game I received last week. I've played it 5 times. I love it. It's right up my alley. It's a very retro dungeon hack. And yeah, I think I'll be playing this for a long time to come. See ya.